fell in love with your beautiful smile and wonderful eyes and so loving and welcoming presence and hugs and everything. So I'm so happy that you're here. And
It
yeah,
it was I just want to say it was such a mutual falling in love because even though we realized just a few months ago that we actually had met many, many decades ago, reconnecting with you when you came to Rishikesh, it just, your presence and your devotion and your connection to the divine through your heart, through sound, through the way you share it, it touched my heart so deeply that even though I didn't remember at that moment that we actually had met decades earlier, it definitely felt like a beautiful reunion and re-meeting and re-coming back together.
yeah, for sure. I but I feel like even to take it a step further, I felt like we had a second reunion after that. And that's when
Yes.
I got your book and I curled up on my couch and read it, from Hollywood to the Himalayas. And it's about your journey of how you got into basically our topic for today, the universal flow. And what I loved about it was that you included so much of your personal journey and struggles. I think especially as a world renowned teacher and spiritual leader, that was kind of gutsy on your part, to kind of have the full exposure, so to speak. But it was so perfect for me because I could see the struggle, and I could see how you were able to find universal flow through that. And that's, for me, I felt like I really got to know you a little bit more through that book.
Yeah.
But then also have more faith in this process of how do we connect with universal flow? And I
Yeah.
guess maybe we could start off with what the heck is it? What is universal flow? What are we talking about today? Do you want to take that?
Absolutely. Sure. Sure. For me, it's the presence of grace. It's the presence of that energy, that sacred energy that makes a flower open its petals to the sun in the morning, that makes apples bloom on apple trees, that makes us open our hearts, open our lives, and accept that incredible invitation that we've been offered by the universe to be that blossoming flower, to be that blooming fruit tree, to be that river that flows. And so for me, the universal flow is that which is in me, as me, whether it comes forth when I am directly serving. So I'm working with children or with women, or whether I'm speaking from a stage, or whether I'm meditating, or whether I'm bowing at the feet of a redwood tree with tears pouring out of my eyes in just love for that presence. It's always there. And it like water, it takes different forms based on the container that it's in. And for me, that's how that flow is. When the flow needs to be there to work with kids, or work with women, or be in the United Nations, or prepare, whatever it is that we need to do for all of the different projects on the ground that we're working in. The flow comes forward like that. When it needs to be a flow of words, of voice, of truth to power, or of inspiration, or of healing, it flows through like that. When it's just the love of my heart for the divine in all of the infinite forms of the divine, it flows through like that. It's like it's like water or like electricity, that in each moment, in different devices, in different containers, in different needs, that power is going to flow through as needed by that device, by that container at that time. But it's always present.
Wow, I love that so much. And I can see from all of the beautiful projects, everything from helping women in India use cloth menstrual pads to helping to clean up the Ganga River, to all of the work that you're doing. There is just this flow, and it's beautiful. And I guess for me, I've got the flow of chanting, which I've had since I don't know when, but it's always a source that I could, tap into. And so I guess I wanted to just bring a little bit of chanting to this conversation, because it's kind of like how I roll, how I do things, little bit of chanting to open up the space that we can really access, and for all of our friends out there joining, we can connect with everyone in some way.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah. Please, definitely, let's do that.
All right. Wonderful. So I'm going to chant Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, bowing to the divine wisdom that it may flow through us. And I just invite everyone to take a deep breath. Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, Sri Guru Deva Name, Sri Guru Deva Name. Sanam. Sanam Waheguru.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
That's
much
kind of
for
my
that.
flow.
And Snatam, it brings others into the flow. When you chant, it's not just that others are enjoying nice music and watching you be in flow, but through the sound of your chanting, it actually brings others into it. And I think that's a really powerful aspect of connecting to that universal divine flow, is when we are connected in whatever way. For you, it's through this sacred chanting, but however we connect to that flow, when we're connected, we bring others along with us. It's like if you're, in Ganga and you're being drenched by the beautiful waters of the sacred Ganga River, the Ganges River. Well, you're going to make other people who come near you wet. You're so wet, you're so drenched that as you interact with others, as others come into your field, you share that with them. And that's what your chanting and your sacred sound does, is it really connects others as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like it's a huge thing to understand what you love and to connect with that from a place of love. There's this line in in the Shabad from the Sikh tradition, which is my tradition, as you know, that's Jini tu sevya pao kar, se tu the par utaria. So those who serve with bow, with love, are carried across the trials and tribulations of the world, and carried to that place of nirvana or samadhi or
Yes.
jivan mukti, of liberation. And I feel like this is so key because the mind, we tend to try to think our way through, but actually
Yes.
we need the heart organ to really serve with love in whatever capacity, and that this is the real connection to flow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think so too. And I think that that's actually what brings us into it, is when there's love. My intellectual brain can connect to your intellectual brain. So we could have a debate, or we could have a very intellectual, heady conversation about something. Or my physical body can connect to your physical body. We could have a beautiful hug, or we could hold hands. But if I'm going to connect to soul, to spirit, to consciousness, to divinity, I have to do that from soul, spirit, consciousness, divinity within myself. I can't expect that my physical body or my intellectual brain is going to be able to connect to that divine flow, to that spirit, to that consciousness, to the capital L love of the universe. The only way to connect to that is when I first drop into it in myself. And, whenever people ask, well, how do we get into the flow? Mm-hmm. For me, that's always the first step, is you've got to drop into the place in you that is open heart, that is not in your head, that is not in your thinking brain, that sees everything in separation, because that's what the mind does, is it sees in separation, it sees objects. But you've got to drop into that sacred heart, and then drop through the sacred heart into that place of spaciousness of spirit. And when you're able to drop into that, then you connect with the universal, supreme, divine love, which is the flow. I mean, whether it is the flowers opening their petals, or the apple trees giving apples, or the river flowing, or the sun shining, it's all a manifestation of love. That flow is love. And when we can't access it, I think it's because our hearts are closed. I think it's because we are too much in our mind and we're trying to think our way in. Mm-hmm. But we can't think our way in. We have to drop to it within ourselves first, out of the mind, into the heart, into spirit, into soul. And then, for me at least, I find we're automatically connected then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to bring to that too. You know, I was recently hearing this story about a Swami who one of his disciples had just recently got a kidney organ transplant, and he couldn't have particular foods, and he had to really be careful with his lifestyle and everything so he could protect that kidney. So that it could integrate into his body system. And the Swami had been just meditating and in the caves and didn't know much about modern medical technology. So he asked his disciple to describe it, tell me about this. And when the disciple finished, he said, "Oh my God, this is so fantastic, because this is what the spiritual journey is. This is the spiritual work is to integrate." So you have, the organ or into your body system, or you have this experience of universal flow. You attend a yoga class, you go to a retreat, maybe at the Rishikesh ashram, or, you have this experience and of flow, and you're like, oh my God, this is it. You chant with a group of people and you feel that, but then how to integrate it and stabilize it into your body system. And the Swami was saying that's what spiritual practice is. Daily practice is to integrate that connection, that very special connection you've had with universal flow, into your body system and stabilize it so that it won't be rejected. So it'll be integrated into the system of who you are. And I just love that, because for me, a lot of my universal flow connection comes from that kind of daily discipline of bringing myself back in. And I was curious if you wanted to talk a little bit about, say you've had the experience of universal flow, how can you stabilize it into your being?
Sure. And that's such a beautiful point. I love that story. I was thinking as you were sharing it about all of the tree plantation work that we do, because we're doing a lot of work, as you know, with reforesting the Himalayas. And when you first plant a sapling, you have to put a tree guard around it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the monkeys, the cows, the dogs will come and they will eat it. But after a few years, the monkeys can swing from the branches of the tree. You no longer need a tree guard around a fully developed tree. You only need it around the sapling, because there's so many perils to it in the early days, and especially in the Himalayas with, elephants and monkeys and so much that's there to want to dig up and eat the saplings. And yet, after a few years, it's become so strong that nothing can knock it down. And I think that's, for me, been a really integral part of the practice, which is, along with the discipline, there's a sense of protection around it needed. We are energetic beings, and we transmit energy, and we also receive energy. And I think in the same way that when a sapling first gets planted, you've got to put a metal tree guard around it, or a brick tree guard around it to protect it and let it grow to become strong. When we first have that experience of flow, and then we're looking to recreate it and access it and ground it and stabilize it in our lives, we need to protect that inner growth. And that may mean not necessarily hanging out with all of the same people that we used to hang out with, not necessarily going to all the same places we used to go, or eating or drinking the same foods that we used to. Different types of intoxicants can impact energy, different types of conversation and people and sound, certain music, certain TV shows, news can impact it in such a way. So I have found that in addition to the importance of discipline that you spoke about so beautifully, and it is so important. I mean, discipline is the foundation. You've got to get up every day and do your meditation, do your chanting. If you miss that 4 a.m. alarm, no problem. God is still available at 5 a.m., at 6 a.m. Are you someone who rolls out of bed at 9 a.m.? Okay, meditate then. Don't create a situation where you say, well, first I'm going to wait until I can consistently get up at 4 a.m. and then I'm going to have a practice. Because then when you don't get up, you've got this perfect excuse not to practice. My guru, Puja Swami Chidanand Saraswati ji, always says, whenever you wake up, it's morning. So yes, ideally, get up as early as you can. But whenever it is, and if morning, for whatever reason, doesn't work for you, again, the divine is available all day long, 24 hours a day. It works for you only at your lunchtime, no problem. Anchor during your lunchtime. It works for you in the evening before sleep, no problem. Whatever time you can make work for you, that's the right time. If you can do mornings, nothing like it. But if not, have your practice anyway. So the discipline is critical. The protecting of ourselves and our energy is critical. Watch what you eat. Watch what you drink. Watch which social media people you follow online and what are you filling your consciousness with. A lot of us pay attention to our food and drink, but not to what we're eating with our other senses. What music are you listening to? What movies and TV shows are you watching? Pay attention to that because it really can have the power to take us out of our heart, out of our flow, into fear, into separation, into scarcity mentality. And that's the exact antithesis, the opposite of flow. So for me, those are really important. I think just lastly, for the moment, I would add to that question a beautiful practice of finding that flow in everyone you meet. Because for a lot of us on spiritual practices, but who are also in the world, meaning even for me, yes, I live in a beautiful ashram on the banks of the sacred Ganges River, but we work in the world. And when you do that, it becomes really easy to feel like, well, this is my spiritual practice, and then this is the other work. This is what I have to do. And then this is my sacred spiritual time over here. And I would say, to the extent that we can bridge that gap and remove those lines, the more powerful our spiritual practices are going to be, and the more successful and happy we're going to be in doing all of our responsibilities, our duties, our dharmas in the world. So whomever you meet, could be the person, at the gas station. It could be a waiter or a waitress. It could be a teller at the bank. It could be your boss. It could be an employee. It could be the person in the car next to you stuck in traffic. Can you see in them the presence of that divine upon whom we meditate when we close our eyes, to whom we sing when we chant and pray? I mean, in all of our sacred scriptures, we're told in different languages, different ways, I live in all. I am infinite. I am all. Well, what a beautiful life mandate, right? Can you see me in all? And if you can find and connect with that capital S self, that divine within me, if I can connect to that in you, when I look at you and I look in your eyes, can I see that divine? And it doesn't matter what name or form or religion we come from, but if I can see spirit, soul, consciousness, self, then every moment, whether I'm getting gas or buying groceries or at the bank or at work, it gives me an opportunity to connect to flow. And every tree, by the way, not only just humans, every species, every tree, every bird, whatever we see.
So beautiful. And I know I actually have a story that I wanted to bring into that concept of tree, just briefly. There was a man who went into the forest to meditate and to just practice yoga and to just find that connection to flow, to be liberated. And he meditated and meditated and meditated so deeply and really was very earnest about his practice. 10 years passed, 20 years passed, and a deva came, an angel came to him, and in his meditation, and he asked the deva, he said, I'd really like to know when I'm going to just be connected with universal flow, when I'm just going to be enlightened, I'm going to be a Jivan Mukti, I'm just in Samadhi. If you could just ask God, that would be great, because I've been here for 20 years. I'd like to know. The angel said, okay. And the angel, is making his way through the forest, and there happened to be another yogi meditating, and he stopped to that yogi, and he said, well, listen, I'm just on my way to God. I'm going to ask him a question for that guy over there. Do you have any questions? And the second yogi said, oh, no, I'm good. So the deva went to the divine, and let's say another 20 years passed. I don't know exactly, but, in yogi time. And the deva came back to this first man meditating, and he said, listen, I spoke to God, and God said, yeah, you're going to tell him he's going to need to meditate probably for another 200 more lifetimes. And the man just said, oh, that's it. I'm done with it. It's not even worth it. And he rolled up his sheepskin and, took and just went back to, daily life of life in the world, back to being a banker or whatever he was, So then the deva found the second yogi, and he said, listen, I know you didn't have any questions for God, but I asked anyway. I asked, when would you reach samadhi? And God gave me an answer. And would you like to know it? And the guy said, well, sure, why not? And he said, well, look up. He was sitting under the tree. The second yogi was sitting under a tree. He said, look up into the tree. And the yogi looks up into the tree. And the deva says, as many leaves are on this tree, that's as many lifetimes that you're going to need to meditate in order to reach samadhi. And the second yogi said, oh, God, that's fantastic. I'm so grateful. I love that. I love meditating. I'm totally in for this. And it said that he got so enraptured in this idea of that he would have to meditate for so long that he reached samadhi right then and there. And beautiful. So I also really love this aspect too of, and I've also read recently about Swami Vivekananda talking about this concept of it's just, we are infinite beings. We are connected to Atman. And if we live life from this place of I am infinite, then we don't have to be in such a rush. we can really just relax and enjoy this creation really of Maya, which is the expression of the divine, the manifestation of the divine, to test us, to give us edge, to help us grow so that we can complete our karmas, so that we can chisel away and find that purity of heart and mind, and get back to the essence of Atman, or the soul. So
I love that. I love that. I was thinking as you were telling the story of the wonderful story of the seeker who goes to the master and says, I want to attain enlightenment. I'm willing to do whatever you say, and I'll give it my all, and just how long do you think it'll take? And the master says, about 10 years. And the disciple says, oh my God, that's way too long. I'll work double hard. I will meditate, double as much. I will do everything double, even more. Then how long will it take? And the guru says, 20 years. As we have that sense of worrying about it, that sense that there is some place else to be, that there is someone else to be, that there is something that is not perfect about the present moment and about us in the present moment, that idea itself is what takes us away from enlightenment, is what takes us away from connection and flow. So if the guy was just going to do a normal practice, 10 years, but if he was going to do one of those, I've got to really, really do it, sweating and struggling and pushing himself and trying to get somewhere, well, it was going to take him double as long, because the simple mentality that I've got somewhere else to be, something to achieve, is that which keeps us from the perfection in the present moment. And I was thinking about what you were saying about Maya, this creation, and being able to just enjoy it. And, for me, because I am a sannyasi, meaning a renunciant, a nun in the Hindu tradition, as you can imagine, there's a lot of people who ask a lot of questions about renunciation and detachment and, not enjoying the senses, as though somehow being a renunciant means that thou shalt not enjoy the sound of beautiful music, or that thou shalt not enjoy the sight of a sunset, that somehow the senses are bad. And they're not. When I think of God, to me, I think of this extraordinarily graceful creator who has given us, aside from putting God's self, putting that divinity in and as each of us, has also given us this incredible creation. I mean, I'm looking out my window right here, right now, on the exquisite sun over these trees and mountains, and it's so beautiful. And you think, God has given us this gift of the creation, of the sounds and the smells and the sights and the tastes. And if you ever give someone a gift, would you want them just to ignore it? I mean, could you imagine giving someone a really beautiful gift one year for Christmas or Hanukkah or Diwali or New Year or whatever holiday you celebrate, and the next year you go back and they say, guess what, Snatam, you're going to be so proud of me. I took that gift you gave me and I forgot about it completely. I hid it in my closet and I never opened the closet door and I pretended you hadn't given it to me. You'd be like, that was really not my intention with the gift. I really had wanted you to use it and enjoy it. You think God has given us eyes to see and senses to hear and to smell and to taste and to touch and to connect. Surely we were not given these things just to ignore them. We were given them to be able to experience the power of the Creator through the creation. You know, it's like your beautiful daughter, Japrit. Well, now she's older, but you know, when she was younger, I'm sure she must have come home many days with scribbles on construction paper, or, you know, whatever little kids do when they're just learning to draw. But somebody else would look at it and say, oh, that's just scribbles on construction paper. But because you love the artist so deeply, you're going to take those scribbles and you're going to put them up on the refrigerator and on the walls, because you see those scribbles and you think, Japrit, the creator of those is so beloved to you that the creation becomes beloved. Mm-hmm. And as we have this Maya, this creation, in Sanskrit we say Shrishti, the creation. In every leaf, in every bit of existence is that beautiful creator. So yeah, I'm a very strong advocate for not getting lost, obviously, in that which is constantly changing. Because that's what makes it Maya. When we say an illusion, it's not an optical illusion like water far off in the desert. It's the illusion as in, it's very temporary. It's a blip. It's a wave on the ocean of infinity. And so it's not real as in that which is eternal and unchanging. And yet, here it is in the moment. And so we don't get lost in it or attached to it, but we absolutely interact and experience it as a gift of the creation. So I love that. And we actually, as you mentioned, Swami Vivekananda, we just celebrated his birthday just this week. And I love that he and Martin Luther King share a birthday week, because they're 4 days apart. And these two incredibly powerful leaders across the world sharing such close birthdays, to me, is a beautiful serendipity and opportunity to remember the teachings of both of them. My favorite story of Swami Vivekananda is a story about fearlessness, where he was always practicing, be fearless, be fearless. God is there, that divine presence is there. And his disciples decided to test him one day. And so he was giving a lecture on stage, and they had dressed up as these masked bandits, and they stormed the lecture hall with what looked like real guns. And they started to shoot. Obviously it was fake, but it looked real. And the audience thought it was real, and everybody's screaming and crying and, you know, cowering under chairs and running for exits. And Swamiji keeps delivering his speech on stage. Like, he doesn't budge. And his disciples came up after and bowed at his feet and prayed for forgiveness and, you know, apologized profusely. But they said, but Swamiji, how is that even possible? I mean, how is it even possible that you kept giving a lecture with masked bandits, with guns and bullets that you thought were real whizzing by? And Swamiji said, the bullet that is not meant to take my life won't take it, even if you fire at point blank range. And the bullet which is meant to take my life will take it, even if I'm surrounded by 100 guards. Mm-hmm. And that idea of not of fearlessness meaning recklessness. A lot of people think that fearlessness means recklessness, and it doesn't. but a fearlessness that arises from faith in the arms that are carrying us, a trust fall into the universe, as we talk about.
That's such a wonderful story. And it reminds me of Sikh warriors as well, who in the 17th century, it would be, one Sikh warrior to 100, basically mercenaries, professional, warriors. And they had this same concept as Swami Vivekananda's, when it's my time, it's my time. So I'm not going to be fearful of this. And they just went into, it's beautiful. The other thing that I wanted to, and I think we'll need to close here, but just talk about in the sense of finding connection to flow, there is the importance of right action, of good action, of feeling good about our lives and taking steps towards consciousness, not just sitting down on the mat to meditate, but also in our words to our family, to our friends, in our actions, in work, and all that we do. Can we exist in a pure heart? And that capacity to sit on the mat and meditate, that's an important part too. And I just want to, say how grateful I am for your example with the Wash Alliance in cleaning up the Ganga River and helping people to in the Ganga Valley to find ways of really supporting the environment, not just the river, but the trees and all of the incredible work that you're doing. And just, recognize that is also a part of being spiritual beings on the planet. And I think I will probably close with chanting and just invite people to follow Sadhvi. I've read her book a couple of times now and given it as presents to people, Hollywood to the Himalayas, along with I love her lectures on YouTube and all of her work that she's doing. So I invite you to check out that work. And I also invite you to join my husband and I on our online school. We have weekly yoga and meditation and kirtan classes. It's called Kirtan and Kundalini. So you're welcome to join us and in all of our work, and hopefully we can support you in all of the ways that flow can and will move through you. So would you like to say anything more before I close with chanting, Sadhviji?
Just what a beautiful joy and gift and blessing it always is to be together with you, and how much I appreciate the way that you, Sopurk, stand in such a place of presence and devotion and love and truth. That name, we say Sat Nam. The name is truth. The word is truth. And the way that you really stand in that is such a deeply powerful and inspiring example and pillar. And I love the role that you play in the world through the gift of your music and the gift of who you are. And it's been such a joy and a blessing to have you read Hollywood to the Himalayas and to be able to come together in such a deeper and closer way. And I just wanted to end with where you began, because in the opening, when you had mentioned about how courageous you felt it was of me to share all of the nitty-gritty, not so pretty details of my own path of healing and transformation and the experiences that I've been through. I just wanted to mention that for me, that's what's most needed in our world today, it's not that everyone has to write a book about how they overcame their struggles, their addictions, their trauma, their conflicts through spirituality, but that we all, wherever we are, in whatever capacity and whatever our dharma or purpose may be, is to create that bridge between spirituality and humanity. That just because I am a spiritual leader or a spiritual teacher or whatever title people give to it, that doesn't mean that I somehow push away or denigrate the human part of me. And I think that one of the real challenges that we're facing these days in our world is that separation between spirituality and humanity, is that somehow, if we want to be spiritual people, we push away our humanness, we push away struggles, we push away conflict, we push away instincts and feelings, lust, greed, anger, all of the things that we're told are big no-nos. And so we push them away. And we end up really spiritual bypassing and not getting into flow, not having that experience of grace, because we are blocking away parts of ourselves, parts of our own experience. And so for me, it's been really a blessing to be able to share through the book, because I think that it's been able to be, we'll say, one brick in a bridge between humanity and spirituality that I really feel all of us today are needed to build, because we need everyone, no matter how mired in your humanity you may feel, to realize that you are a being of spirit connected to other beings of spirit. And for those of us who identify as spiritual beings, to realize that doesn't mean that you're supposed to disconnect from or detach from your human self or the rest of humanity, but that they actually come together. And that for me has been a beautiful blessing in sharing Hollywood to the Himalayas with the world. And I'm just so touched by your love and your support for the book, and of course for all of our work with the Ganga in Rishikesh. And I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much. I feel like I've just got a nice uplift for my day, and I'm so grateful for your presence and that I could share you with all my friends on social media. And I'll just close with Longtime Sun. So, may the long-time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long-time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. Satnam. 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 Satnam.
Satnam.
All right. Thanks,
So
everybody.
beautiful.
Thank you, Sadhviji. Thank you. Love to you.
Love you.
I have to get my tech team. Oh, that's me.